Hello and welcome to Nangka, which is less than 24 hours from hitting Japan. So let's jump right into this right away since there's really no introduction needed. Uh, Here's the latest information as shown by the JMA. And Typhoon Nangka is currently located at 30.5 north and 135.0 east, with maximum 10-minute sustained winds of 40 meters per second with gusts up to 60. The velocity is currently north or just west of north at 20 kilometers per hour, and a pressure of 955 hectopascals. The cyclone destruction potential scale, which is my own scale that I have invented, gives this storm a rating of stage 6. And what that means, and it's just below the next stage up, stage 7, which requires 38. What this basically means is that the storm is either very large, which it is, or very powerful, which it is not. It's not even a 100 knot system. It's only a 90 knot system at best. But what this basically means is that a large typhoon is expected to move over an area at about an average pace. And that's basically what we're expecting here from Typhoon Nangka. A Category 2 strike. A Category 2 strike directly onto... Boy, I'm terrible at this, I'm sorry. The Category 2 strike directly onto central Shikoku Island. Let's go to the JMA website and take a look at what they have. Here's the latest information. The track basically takes it directly over the center of Shikoku and then moves it off into the... I'm sorry. My mind's just drawing a blank. I'm sorry. I'm terrible with videos. I'm terrible with doing live videos. This is why I don't usually do pre-recorded stuff. None. And I'm not used to world geography, so please excuse me if I'm chopping stuff up horribly, because I know I will. But it will re-enter into whatever sea this is, and it's expected to be at least a tropical storm all the way out until 72 hours. And then if we take a look at a 5-day map with the track on it, it takes it back out into the Pacific Ocean, just west of Hokkaido. And, well, the system is expected to make landfall. The system is expected to make landfall in Shikoku, pretty much right on the center of it, maybe just to the east of the center. And this typhoon is actually so large that there's a good possibility that the Kobe, Kyoto metro area will actually be significantly impacted by this storm, if not with gale force winds, with maybe even typhoon force winds. Though I think that possibility is probably a bit low. The main threat lies on Shikoku Island and southwestern Honshu. I don't think Kyushu is going to get affected too badly by this, but let's go to the warnings anyways. We have warnings set up on eastern Kyushu Island. These are gale warnings, and we have another gale warning being set out for the Okayama area as well. Shikoku Island and the rest of southwestern Japan, for that matter, is only underneath a storm or gale advisory at this moment. There are high wave warnings pretty much up and down the entire island chain, including here in Okinawa and Sorry. I'm sorry. I really am. A mommy. So after that butchery, let's take a look at what the Joint Typhoon Warning Center has to say about this system. And pretty much just the same thing. It takes it just to the west of what the JMA has to say and shows the Kyoto area and Kobe area getting affected with gale conditions. That's what this outer circle's supposed to represent, gale conditions. Not necessarily be affected by typhoon conditions. It looks like that's going to be confined to the Shikoku area, and then it's expected to move off as a rather weak system. And if you take a look up here, see how strong the storm is, I'd like to remind you that this is in 1 minute sustained, not 10 minutes sustained. It's expected to make landfall at its current intensity with 80 knot, 10 minutes sustained wind speed, which I'll show here. Again, right here, only weakening slightly, 40 meters per second at 75 knots. So only weakening very, very slightly. Now we get to look at what CIMMYS has to say, and I'm pretty sure there might be something new in, yes. CIMMYS, this is an organization, a college actually in the United States, based out of Madison, Wisconsin, that has an algorithm set up on their computer to automatically estimate what the wind speed and air pressure of a system would be. And according to this algorithm, Typhoon Nangka currently has 75 knot 1 minute sustained winds, so probably around 37, 38 meters per second, 1 minute sustained, probably around 27, 28 meters per second, 10 minutes sustained. And the T numbers pretty much agree with the CI. It does have a weakening flag on, which means that the storm is decreasing in strength. And the average 34 knot radii here is pretty surprising with 212 kilometers, because that has, I've seen both the JTWC and the JMA say the storm has about an average 34 knot radius of around 400 kilometers, about twice the size as what CIMMYS has, which is interesting. CIMMYS isn't usually entirely wrong with what they say, but sometimes they do miss some things, and I think they're really underestimating how large this storm is. So naturally, we now move on to the satellite imagery, which will start with a full disk imagery of Himawari 8, of the Himawari 8 satellite. And you can see Typhoon Nangka just coming into view here with Typhoon Halola way out here, and another disturbance, which might be a tropical depression. I'm not 100% sure. But this is what Typhoon Nangka looks from far away, and it looks like a very impressive storm from far away here in the full disk. It looks like a very mature high-end Cat 3. Then you take a look at it on shortwave IR, which is what you see here, which is this is another image from Himawari, and you can clearly see that the storm is certainly weakening. It's lost a lot of convection on the left side, and the eye wall is even opening, all signs of weakening to the system. You can also see a more north-northwesterly trend to the storm's path rather than due north, which would probably be the worst case scenario at this point, shoving all of the storm surge that it might carry with it right into this nook and cranny, which could be potentially poor for the Kobe area, I should say. This is MTSAT visible imagery of Typhoon Nangka, and you can see it's tried to become an annular hurricane the past couple of days. It's just failed at it, however, as it's just moved over too cold to sea surface temperatures too quickly in order to become one. And you can even see on this imagery, which updates about once every hour as opposed to Mawari, which is once every 10 minutes. And you can really see on the western side here, it is completely eroding away, basically, on the western side, with the exception of eye wall here in the last couple of images. You can take a look at the water vapor and see if there's dry air on the western side of the cyclone. Yeah, way out here past the anticyclone, but that's to be expected. Other than that, you can really see here in the water vapor that the eye is not looking good, to say the least. Very jagged in appearance. I'm pretty sure we'll see the same thing on the BD imagery. And let me go through quickly, tell you what the BD imagery states here. And this is basically shows a signature for how strong the storm is. These light grays are usually 4-0. Blacks all the way around usually mean a 5-0. The whites on top of the blacks usually means a 6-0. Then there's another color that gets put on top of the whites, which stretches all the way around the eye wall, and it's thick enough. You consider that 7-0. And then another color on top of that, where if it stretches all the way around the eye wall, it's considered to be an 8-0, or strongest cyclone possible, which would actually be a storm underneath 870 millibars, stronger than 10, which is quite the surprise. But as you can see, Typhoon Nangka is not exactly exhibiting that much. Sim is saying around a 4.5 on the T scale. I'm going to pretty much agree with that. I wouldn't necessarily say 75, 80 knots. That would probably be a good estimate of what its intensity is right now. Of course, the size is a lot larger than that. Probably gales affecting the Japanese coasts already, especially on Shikoku Island and southwestern Honshu. Let's take a look at some models, and also let's keep in mind that we have another typhoon out in the Pacific, Halola. So keep that in mind as well as we go forward. And the GFS takes the storm inland, trying to see just about where that is. Pretty much in accordance to what the JTWC has to say, right on Shikoku Island, enters into the sea, and kind of just dissipates before moving out and getting absorbed by whatever this system will be. And then we have Typhoon Nangka, Typhoon Halola here, moving up to the north and scraping past the Tokyo area, potentially producing gales, before actually looping completely back to the east as a rather strong system, which is north of 30 degrees, which is interesting. But I don't think the GFS is going to give me anything more after that. The CMC, which doesn't really have Halola on here, shows a landfall for Nangka further to the west than what the CMC JAMA and GTWC have to say. And what's interesting is that the CMC develops the system to the south of Nangka. And then you can see Typhoon Halola going through the Mariana Islands there. So rather weak system turning up to the north, and that's as far as this model will go. And we'll take a look at what the ECMWF has to say. There it is, taking it furthest to the west as all the models, as it basically turns it right towards Kyushu Island and getting ready to potentially impact the Nagasaki area of Japan. And then move the system into the sea, turn back up to the north and east, and then eventually get absorbed. Then we have Typhoon Halola to worry about, or maybe not, because that's about what's left of Halola, and that's at 168. And that's pretty much the end of the models. So we can go back to what the warnings have to say for new viewers. What the warnings have to say. And we have, now this is storm warnings, red storm warnings for the eastern parts of Kyushu, which would be the Miyazaki and Owita prefecture rather, and also a typhoon warning for the Wakayama prefecture. On Shikoku Island, we have just advisories in Kochi, Ehime, and Tokushima prefectures. As far as on Honshu, gale advisories for the following prefectures: Yamaguchi, Shinamani, Hiroshima, Okayama, Tottori, Hyogo, Kyoto, Fukui, Shiga, Osaka, Nara, and Mie prefectures. And also for the rest of Kyushu, we have Fukuoka, obviously Nagasaki and Saka, Kumamoto, and Kagoshima. And also some gale warnings except further up the east with Aichi, Shizuoka, Kanagawa, and actually for Tokyo as well. But I don't think those gales will be associated with the system. There's also another warning further up, and there's pretty much high wave warnings up and down the entire island chain of Japan here. Basically, if you're on an island, if you're on Japan and you're on a coast facing Typhoon Nangka, you're underneath a high wave warning. As far as heavy rain is concerned, we have heavy rain warnings for the Tokyo and surrounding areas, and we also have heavy rain for the Tokushima area of Shikoku Island. And now flood advisories are set up. Only advisories on Shikoku and southwestern Honshu, but there are flood warnings for Shizuoka, Yamanashi, Tokyo, Saitama, Guma, and Tochigi prefectures. The Gunma prefecture. Initial D. Don't tell anyone I know that. Let's see here. We should probably also take a look at storm surge, which I imagine that there's got to be some surge associated with the system, and there's only some advisories out. The advisories are for the Tokushima, Wakayama, and Mie prefectures, as well as the Nagasaki prefecture as well. There's also out for Okinawa prefecture. So there are some storm surge advisories out for the system. We can go over the latest info of Typhoon Nangka again, and this is as of 2100 UTC. The current position is 30.5 north, 135.0 east, maximum sustained winds of 40 meters per second, that's about 80 knots, and with maximum gusts of 60 meters per second, or about 120 knots. So this storm has quite the gusts, quite the winds with it. It's not necessarily a major typhoon, which would be over 50 meters per second, but it still will pack quite a punch with the winds. The main threat, I would think, would be just the sheer size of the storm. There will probably be some at least moderate storm surge, 8 to 10 feet, probably a little bit more than that in this bay here. And the velocity is currently just west of north at 20 kilometers per hour with a pressure of 955 hectopascals and 955 millibars, and with a max cyclone destructive potential scale rating of 37, which puts it as a very high-end stage 6 typhoon. And what this basically means is that the storm is a potentially destructive one. To get a comparison, Typhoon Newell, which was just off when it was just off the coast of the Philippines, was also rated at a stage 6, just off the coast. Typhoon Chan-Hom, also when it was just located east of Shanghai, was also a stage 6. So that's just some comparisons from this year alone. Typhoons that were about this strength. Looking at what the JTWC has to say one more time, it's currently at 80 knots 1 minute sustained, which kind of conflicts with the 80 knots 10 minutes sustained from the JMA, and it's expected to walk pretty much right through the center of Shikoku Island and then be a potential threat to pretty much all the highlighted areas that was on the map. I'm surprised that there's not more gale warnings set up on Shikoku Island. Maybe they're not expecting the storm to be that bad there. I'm not 100% sure how Japan handles storms and whatnot, and how good seawalls are or anything like that. So if we take a look at Simis, and maybe they have yes, they do have the 2200 out. And they weakened the storm actually significantly, all the way down to 70 knot 1 minute sustained, so 35 meters per second. And the storm's only drawing ever so closer to Shikoku Island. Take a look at the latest full disk Himawari images coming through, and again, this Typhoon Nangka looks so impressive to me on this screen. It really looks like a well-organized system. Although when you take a look at almost everything else makes Typhoon Nangka basically look like it does. It's weakening significantly. This shortwave image kind of shows there at the end that the eye wall is reorganizing itself potentially there, maybe starting to become a little bit more circular. This is, of course, just on the shortwave IR, or what's known as nighttime visible, as it's definitely starting to make its charge turn towards the northwest. Here is the latest MTSAT imagery, as the storm kind of is barreling towards Shikoku. Water vapor imagery shows that dry air is really not affecting the system, which is not really that big of a surprise for a storm that is as large as this, and for as strong as this. Usually dry air is not able to get close enough to the system to impact it significantly, but you can kind of see the leading edge of dry air starting to come across the Nagasaki area on Kyushu, and that is the leading edge of the trough that's supposed to take Nangka off to the north and east, and then east over Kyoto. Here it is on BD imagery, which is my personal favorite for seeing how strong the storm is, and the eye is almost certainly trying to reform. Their eye wall's trying to reform here. I'm not 100% sure how successful that eye wall reformation is going to be, but we'll see in the next couple of hours. I would expect that the landfall from this system's probably about 12 hours away, probably 12 to 15 hours away from right now. and well, we'll see how it plays out. That's pretty much all that I have to say about this system. If you pretty much go over to the Force 13 room right now, I'm not 100% sure when, but they will be starting a live event rather shortly, I'm presuming. Let me take a look here. Is there going to be a live event? Sorry, this is just a lot of text that I need to go through. Okay, probably not within, not right now, but probably within the next hour or so, I would say that we will get to it. So I'll just leave you here with this beautiful full disk image from the Himawari 8 satellite. This has been Mythic, obviously, of Project Envision, and I'll be seeing you sometime later on. I'm not sure when, whenever the next threat is, whenever the next significant threat is worldwide, or whenever the next storm forms in the Atlantic. Until then, I guess you're kind of without me. No comments either, and only one's watching.